All right, well, welcome back, everybody. Here we are for the last AVH study group webinar of the year, and I think a lot of us will be happy that we're winding down 2021, but tonight we've got a great last presentation, and I'm not gonna spoil it, so Dr. Melling, Certified Vet Homeopath, please take it away.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thanks for giving me a little bit of time tonight. I had, as some of you know, sent out some feelers on the AVH website a couple weeks ago because I had this idea of doing a webinar on business models and practice models, because one of the things I like so much in talking to my homeopathic colleagues and in teaching the professional course in veterinary homeopathy is that we get to talk to other people and find out what they're doing in their practice and what works for them and what doesn't work for them. And then I think we can take that information and use that to help ourselves and say, hey, I never thought of that idea. Maybe I should try that in my practice. And I can say that a lot of the successes that I've had over the past few years have been by stealing ideas from other homeopaths and actually having another homeopath come and observe me during the day in my practice, and then talk about all the things that they saw that they liked and things that I could work on. And so my initial idea was I would ask the group a set of questions, and then I would talk about practice models and compare them. But so for those of you who didn't see it, the questions that I sent out to the AVH group on the forum are, what is a challenge you face in homeopathy? Tell me something in homeopathy you do well. Is your practice model working for you? Do you like the amount you work each week? You can already imagine the answers I got, right? Are you an associate or a practice owner? Are you content? Are you well compensated? What would improve your satisfaction? And so what my initial idea was in doing this was I thought, let's find out who is running their business successfully and throw out some ideas similar to the PIVH, the Pitcairn Institute of Veterinary Homeopathy faculty, each sharing their practice models when they teach their session in the homeopathy course. And then I thought we can build on our successes and we can support each other. And I'm going to tell you, I have some pretty selfish motivations in this. My true confession, hi, my name is Lisa, and I am a recovering workaholic. This picture, I have shamelessly inserted a lot of pictures into this presentation. This picture was taken during the work week on a hike on a day that I chose to go hiking at Alligator Hill with my best friend. And she took this picture of me. This is at the top of a place called Alligator Hill. This is about 8 miles from my house. That's Lake Michigan in the background. And those are my goofy dogs. And I am laughing my head off because we could not get them to hold still for this picture. I'm sitting on a bench and I would get one dog up and then the other dog would jump down. And then I'd get the other dog up and the other dog would jump down. And then they both start standing on me and licking my face. And it took about 5 minutes before she snapped, I think, 25 pictures. And one of them came out with both of the dogs sitting and looking at the camera. So that's the reason why this picture's in here, because this was taken during a work week. And the reason I say I'm a recovering workaholic is because I had a rough 2020 and it was building for a long time, but what I had been trying to do for the past 5 years was to work 2 jobs. And I moved to northern Michigan. I am on the Leelanau Peninsula, just north of Traverse City. So that's the lower peninsula of Michigan on the far north aspect of Lake Michigan. And it's a resort, it's a destination resort. People come here in the summer for the beaches and the beautiful views. I live a mile from Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore, and people come here in the fall to see our pretty colors because we have so many trees, and then in the winter to ski. And when I moved up here in 2015, I left my holistic practice in Ann Arbor, which is on the other side of Michigan, and moved here and started my practice over as Good Harbor Holistic Vet Care. And so in the beginning, I worked emergency medicine part-time to pay bills and build up my practice. And then as my practice got built up and became really successful, I just kept doing both jobs. And I got busier and busier in my practice. And instead of cutting back at the emergency clinic, I kept working the same number of hours. And pretty soon, I was working all the time. And I just gotten so used to suffering through it that I never stopped to think whether or not this was something I should keep doing. It just seemed like it was the thing to do. And so I would work Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday at Good Harbor Vet. And then Saturday mornings, I would get up at 5 a.m. and I would work at the emergency clinic until 7 o'clock. That's when my shift was supposed to end. That's actually just when rounds started. So I'd probably get home at like 8 or 9 o'clock, and then guess what I'd do on Sunday? Oh yes, I would get up and do that whole thing over again. And this winter, I just decided I absolutely couldn't do it anymore, and I didn't want to. And so I quit the emergency clinic, and I decided that I was going to do Good Harbor Vet full time. And it was a process for sure about learning how to not work all the time and to change my schedule so that I could actually enjoy my life and enjoy where I lived. So I'm going to share some of that process with you. Hopefully this helps some, whether you're happy in your job or not, or you're looking to have some new ideas. I'm also going to share some of the really great answers I got from my interview questions on the AVH forum. So I have to warn you, some of this is going to feel a little bit like therapy, but I think that's okay, because I think healers need a little bit of therapy, because as healers, when we're broken, who heals us? And what compromises are we willing to make to be really good healers? And what sacrifices do we make to heal others, to heal our patients? And what do these sacrifices do to our ability to continue healing when we as the healer are always compromising and sacrificing? So all of you are familiar with the NOMV slogan of Not One More Vet, which refers to the scary rise in suicide amongst veterinarians. And JAVMA in the January 2019 edition did a study, a retrospective study on suicide amongst veterinarians from 1979 to 2015. They looked back at the obituaries of 11,620 veterinarians and found that 398 deaths resulted from suicide, and that these numbers are rising at an alarming rate. So what I would like to do is not talk about veterinary suicide. I would like to look at the things that get veterinarians to that point and stop it before we're talking about not one more vet. Let's talk about the things that lead up to that and stop it before it gets to the point where we're talking about someone we know or a mentor or someone that we really respected, like Sophia Yin committing suicide. So I think that it's important to talk about what predisposes us to suffer this much. What makes a veterinarian in the first place? Well, these were just things that I came up with. I think veterinarians are naturally or groomed to be perfectionists. We need to be right because sometimes when we're wrong, the most serious result is that our patients can die. I think we are bred to be workaholics because it's so damn hard to get into vet school. So we start out getting really good grades in high school so that we can get into a good college. And then in college, we're competing with all these other people who want to go to vet school. And we know there's a limited number of slots. And we know that they're not going to take everybody. And we know that our grades have to be good. But we also have to have a balance of extracurricular activities. And so it's competitive. And so from the very beginning, veterinarians are groomed to study the most, work the hardest, be the best. And we're taught that if you want to be a good veterinarian, you give it all for your patients and for your clients. So why do I want to talk about this topic tonight, other than my selfish motivations of being a recovering workaholic? Well, I think we're a great group of people, and I've met most of you over the years at conferences or the annual meeting, and I want to remind us all that we're not alone, and that sharing our experience can empower each other, and that sharing practice models can give people an idea of, oh, cool, I'm not alone. I am doing this well, or other people are struggling with this challenge too. And then I also want to explore a really interesting question, which is, who are you besides a veterinarian? And one question that I would ask people is, do you love to work? And this is my answer. Me, I used to love to work. And then I became emotionally and physically exhausted, and I was merely surviving each day. I actually had my therapist ask me, who are you besides a veterinarian? And I said to her, who cares? I'm a veterinarian all the damn time. And that was probably one of my breaking points early this winter in 2021. That was my answer. Who cares who I am besides a veterinarian? I'm a veterinarian all the damn time. So ironically, she thought this was a question that was worth exploring. And so this became like a thought journal assignment for me. Who am I besides a healer? And I will tell you, it took me a couple days to figure this out because I just come to think of myself as a veterinarian all the time. And I couldn't think of what made Lisa besides being a veterinarian. And I'm reading this book right now called The Spirituality of Imperfection by Kurtz and Ketchum. And there's a couple of really great quotes in it, but this quote made me think a lot about this presentation tonight because it says, what we do is important, but what we are is more important. And I don't mean what you are being a healer. I mean what you are as a person who makes up each of us, and the job that we do, the healing that we do, it needs to just be a part of who we are, not all encompassing. So keeping that in mind, oh, this is a picture of me standing at the very, very top of Yosemite this last month when I went on vacation and left my clients for a week. And my best friend took this picture of me while I was looking out literally over the valley below. And I think it's a good representation of the amazing things that we can see when we leave our practices and leave our clients for a little while. So let's ask ourselves, who are you beyond a veterinarian? This is my cute little dog Mouse, who I adopted this spring from a client who decided that a pit bull crossed with a cattle dog was not something that she could do once she fell and broke her hip when she was ice skating. So I'm going to tell you my answer to this question that took me several days to figure out. I live 4 miles from Lake Michigan in a 4-season vacation destination. This picture is the shoreline of Good Harbor Beach, which is 4 miles from my house and the beach that I named my practice after. This is one of the most beautiful places I've ever been to. And yet, how can I go there? Because there's so much to do at work. So if I live here in this vacation destination, I live 4 miles from one of the prettiest beaches I've ever seen. Why do I work all the time when I could do this? So these were my answers. What do I love to do besides work? I love to ride my horse. I love to ski in the winter. I love to swim in the summer. I love to stand up paddleboard. This is a picture of me on my stand up paddleboard on Lake Leelanau this summer. I love to walk my dogs. I love to read, garden, hike national parks with my best friend. But how can I do these things if I work all the time? So let's ask ourselves, what is there besides work? Well, this summer, I was on the phone counseling a colleague and a friend who was frustrated that she was not being properly compensated for being on call. And I was trying to empower her to keep advocating for her rights to be paid properly, to be on call, and to keep insisting that her employers paid her to sit around at home and wait for a phone call for an emergency, or properly pay her for getting out of bed at 2 in the morning to go attend to a horse. And I wasn't sure she was completely following me, and I felt like I was advocating for her more than she was advocating for her. So after we hung up, this is what I texted her. Horseback riding, hiking, camping, sleeping, road trip, vacation, eating, reading, having sex, biking. These are all things you can do instead of being on call for free. And ironically, when I texted this person tonight and I said, hey, are you going to be able to watch the AVH webinar? She's on call waiting for a horse emergency to come in. So, do we want to be perfect, or do we want to be perfectly human? Here's another quote from this book I'm reading. The spirituality of imperfection begins with the recognition that trying to be perfect is the most tragic human mistake. And there's another quote that I can't find in the book that I pretty much memorized that talks about being perfectly human means coming to terms with the fact that being perfectly human means that we are by nature imperfect. I have this friend who we are going to call Wise Friend in this presentation. This is a picture of her sitting beneath a really enormous tree in Yosemite last month. And this Wise Friend is one of my favorite people in the world. And she is as allopathic as I am holistic. And she is an emergency vet out in Washington State. And she is so supportive of me being a holistic healer. And even though the medicines that we prescribe are very different in our jobs, she and I are the best of friends. And she is a recovering workaholic. And she's about 5 or 6 years ahead of me in recovering from being a workaholic. And I call her wise friend because she's always giving me the best advice about how not to be a workaholic. And I think last year when she and I were hiking, we hike at least twice a year. We fly out to meet each other and we hike different national parks. She lives out in Washington State. And so I think last year we were hiking in a national park and I was talking to her about my struggles with being a workaholic. And she said, you know, veterinarians are always asking themselves, what more can I do for more clients? How can I give them more of what they want? So my clients are happier with me, so I can get more clients in my practice, so I feel more successful. Then she says, veterinarians are always asking themselves, well, I just practice medicine. These clients also need a groomer. They also need a boarding facility. They also need round-the-clock emergency care. I can give them all of this if I just work longer, if I just try harder. Wise friend also says, your job should give you enough time to use the bathroom more than once in your shift. You should get a lunch break away from work for an hour. You should be able to go on vacation without talking to clients every day of your trip and answering emails and worrying. I will tell you that the first national park that she and I hiked together, she almost ended our friendship over the fact that I brought the business phone and my computer. And in between hikes in Arches National Park, I was trying to answer client questions about a dog that was struggling with cancer and return emails every day. Do you know how hard it is to get internet and cell phone service in the middle of Arches? I do, because I kept trying to do it and interrupting our vacation. And that was the last vacation she said she would ever go on with me if I brought the business phone again. Wise friend also says, no one needs to work more than 40 hours a week. I recommend 35. So going to my questions to the forum. Do you like how much you work? Most people who responded reported working 50 hours or more a week. Several reported working at least a few hours every single day. Some do their own emergencies or share on-call emergency services. One of the responses I got when I said, do you like how much you work? She wrote back, I am very weary. I am okay with the current situation, but I am thinking of retiring in a few more years. It's just emotionally draining. Another person wrote, I work way too many hours. I find myself getting more and more exhausted, but don't know how to make it more efficient and still take care of my patients. I'm doing okay. I love what I do. I just find myself caught doing it almost all the time, with very little time to get away and take care of myself and my family and form. Another person said they'd like to take more time off. This is one of their biggest challenges. She says, I work every day, even if only a little bit. I took about 3 days off 5 years ago, but only because I went to Boy Scout camp with one of my sons and there was no internet service. I would love to offer more hours, but if I did, I would completely burn out. I have literally gotten sick from stress over a previous failed clinic, and I will not allow this to happen to me again. So on to some happier answers. I asked people, what do you do well? And one of the best responses was making a living practicing classical homeopathy. happy clients with healthy pets, speaking the truth about vaccines and nutrition and allopathy. Most clients don't know or understand homeopathy at all. They come because I'm close, not because they want homeopathy. They get homeopathy because that's what I do. Then when the outcomes are beautiful, they call it magic. I asked, are you content? And one person wrote, I'm content enough. You know how it can be. Sometimes it's the best job in the world. Sometimes it's the worst job in the world. Mostly, I feel very blessed to be able to snuggle my patients and gratified when I can make a real difference. There are days that I feel ministered to, like they do more for me than I do for them. What are some of your challenges? Someone wrote, I am so tired of being responsible for client happiness. I know it is a thing we take on ourselves, but people are so needy and it has only gotten worse. They seem to have no concept of barriers, and I feel bad for them. Other challenges. Homeopathic patients that drop out because of symptoms. One person on this topic said, especially the itchy ones. Sadly, those are the ones I long to help. And another person wrote, and skin. Can we talk about skin? This picture on the slide is of two of my old girls. I have three animals in my house right now that are between 13 and a half and 14 years old. And so this is the equivalent of two old men on a park bench, except Thumbs is the 14-year-old cat, and Squeaky is the almost 14-year-old Shih Tzu. And I have had multiple phone conversations over the past year and a half with Laura Weiss talking me down from the prednisone ledge with this damn Shih Tzu because she is so itchy. And it is so hard to find homeopathic remedies for our itchy patients. And I'm so grateful for every single time Laura Weiss talked me off of the prednisone ledge, because I have never given this dog prednisone. I do quite frequently put her in the kitchen sink twice a week and bathe her to help her symptoms while her remedy's kicking in. But skin is going to be everybody's greatest challenge, I think. I think I told Sarah Stieg once that I'd rather treat a dog with cancer than a dog with a skin condition, because at least the client whose dog has cancer is already expecting the worst. I liked this answer so much. This person wrote, probably the biggest challenge I face as a new homeopath is self-doubt. There, I've said it. Do I know enough? Will I cause harm? What do my colleagues think? How do I ask for help? All of these same questions that a conventional veterinarian would have if they possess self-perspective. Fortunately, after I learned to share this concern with my clients and advise that we will start here and may have to change based on how Fluffy leads, I started to see some successes. That was really inspiring to me. And then another respondent wrote, after curing cancer, lymphoma, mast cell tumors, why are we still left with ear problems that don't go away? Cure is just an ear infection away. So, what can we do about our future? Can we change how we practice to take better care of ourselves as healers? Can those who are starting out their new homeopathic adventures benefit from our experiences? And by the way, of the people who responded to my little questionnaire, 3 of those people are starting out new homeopathic practices or changing their current homeopathic practice or current integrative practice to become more homeopathic. So the goal is, by talking about these things, can we gain strength from our colleagues, knowing that we are not alone, that others feel this way, that others are struggling with the same troubles, that others are feeling similar successes. So my new goal is I am learning again to love to heal, not live to heal. One of the people in the questionnaire wrote, I love my practice. I love my clients. We are like-minded, and that is so beautiful. Making good money and enjoying what I do. This is a picture of Murphy. He's a puppy in my practice whose owners want to raise him holistically without vaccines or drugs. We are successfully treating him with homeopathy and a little bit of diatomaceous earth for a little bit of intestinal parasites. I saw him today. He's looking great. This is his Halloween costume. So I thought I would take a few minutes to share my successes with you, because quitting my second job and putting my energy and focus into my own practice was one of the greatest gifts. And because of that, I went from working 60 hours a week to working 30 to 35 hours a week. And shockingly, took only a very tiny pay cut in doing that. And why is that? Because in my practice, I pay myself really well. And I'll tell you how I figured that out. My practice is called Good Harbor Holistic Veterinary Care. I offer homeopathy, chiropractic, and nutritional counseling, primarily using fresh food diets. And for the first couple of years that I worked up here, I was mostly doing house calls. And then the demand for holistic healthcare in my area became so high that there were people who wanted to travel 2 and 3 hours to consult with me. And I don't have a travel radius of 2 to 3 hours, so I wasn't willing to drive that far to see them. So I needed a place for them to come see me. For a while, I was having people come into my office in my home. I do not recommend this. This is bad for boundaries. This is bad for your pets because I had to lock mine in my bedroom. This is bad for your housekeeping because how awkward is it to have a client come into your house and be like, can you take off your shoes? No, that's not a thing. But I have chickens. So these clients invariably walked through at least one chicken poo pile. And then I let them in my house without shoes. And I never wear shoes in my house. So I don't recommend this. And this cute little cabin was my solution. This is an Amish built cabin that was made by spec, my specifications. I sat down with a guy and he drew it with a pen and paper. And we created this super cute 200 square foot cabin that's a little screened in porch, which acts as like a great airflow during the summer and a secondary barrier to the dog that maybe rushes out the first door. And the inside, oh, and this is at the back of my driveway. I have 3.5 acres in Leelanau County, and my house is about 200 feet from my clinic. And it's a real short commute to work. This is the inside of my clinic. The front door opens up. That black thing on the floor is a scale. There's a rug there because I have a lot of old, creaky patients that don't walk really well. There's a number of different seating options. That is a sleeping loft at the top. I've never used it, but it was part of the basic design of the cabin, and I thought, sure, why not? Let's leave it. And then, so there's a view from each direction. The view on the left is the view from the front door. And so that's my desk. And I sit and I turn my chair to face the clients, and I just put my laptop in my lap and I just type as they talk to me. And that wheelie cart, that is a tool chest for most people, that is where I store all of my homeopathic remedies and prescription vials. And the top drawer, which actually pops upward and is a locking cabinet, is where I keep my Class 3B laser, because that's probably the most expensive thing in my practice. You'll notice over the top window, I've got a picture of a painting that Susan did. I have Veggie Dog on the top shelf as one of the supplements I encourage people to use when they're feeding a plant-based diet. That little wood stove beneath the window heats my little 200 square foot practice during the colder months. And during the summer, I trade that out for a window air conditioning unit that just hooks up as a hose, and then the air conditioning unit is on wheels. Most of the time, I just need to use it on the fan setting because northern Michigan is buffered in temperature by the lake. And our average summer temperature is in the upper 60s to mid to upper 70s. Maybe a week each summer we get into the 80s and maybe into the high 80s, and maybe 1 or 2 days it's in the 90s. But other than that, it's really a moderate, nice temperature in the spring, summer, and fall. So I'm a one-woman show, and I really like it. I am an LLC sub S corp. So LLC means I'm a limited liability corporation, and the sub S corp is a clever paycheck thing that my accountant did to help lower my tax bracket. I have a great accountant and his assistant. Once a month I pay myself, and then I tell her how much my net pay was, and then she pays my federal tax. She figures out how much my federal taxes should be and automatically withdraws them from my business account each month. And then she tells me how much my withholding should be for the state, and then I pay that quarterly. And then every year they do my business taxes, and my accountant also works at the same company as my financial planner. So they're always in conversations with each other and are always thinking up new ways for me to reduce my my profit so that I keep a narrow profit, and help me invest better in my business and in myself. I use FreshBooks software. It is the answer to anyone who cannot understand QuickBooks. And I, for some reason, cannot figure QuickBooks out. And FreshBooks is so simple. And it's after each client, I go online and I write an invoice for that client. And then I email it to them, and it sends them a link to pay the invoice, and I can choose what the time period is, like how much time they have to pay it. I've experimented with everything from 7 days to 2 weeks, and I will tell you that most clients either pay it the minute they get the invoice, or they pay it 30 seconds before the deadline. So right now I've got it at 10 days as my deadline for invoices. Everything else is done by Lisa Melling DVM, and I really like it this way. So I have a cell phone for the business, and I almost never answer it. I will return calls at the end of the day. I have trained my clients to text me if they need a quick answer for something. They text me for appointments, they text me for questions. And if it's something that requires a conversation, we set up a phone consult and they pay me to give them advice over the phone, or we schedule a consult in person and they bring their pet in. New clients leave messages and I call them back. I am currently booking up 5 weeks in advance for new clients. And one of the reasons for this is my new client appointments take up 3 appointment slots. So they're an hour and a half. And I don't want to overwhelm myself. And I want to make sure I leave space for my current clients without having to work too much. So that means I take 3 new clients a week, 1 new client a day. I see appointments on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. A couple more things about how I run my practice. I have an hourly consulting rate for homeopathy and for email and phone consulting. I don't do phone consults for clients whose pets I haven't examined yet. So I won't do phone consults like through the AVH website without having examined the pet first. Part of this, I think, is me. I'm very visual, and I think I gain a lot by seeing the pet, and I do very thorough physical exams. And then the other part is fear of getting in trouble with my license, because Michigan is pretty strict about requiring a veterinary client-patient relationship before giving any medical advice. And I think we either decide homeopathy is medicine or not. And I feel like if I'm giving advice on homeopathy, I'm prescribing medicine. So I have an hourly consulting rate. Any patient who's been examined by me in the past year is legally entitled to phone consulting or email advice if they can't bring their pet in. I have flat rate services for barn fee travel and also for my chiropractic services. I mostly do small animal care, but I do chiropractic on small and large animals. I've also adjusted a rooster. I've also adjusted a pig. The pig is not fun. When she doesn't want something that you're doing, she just throws her 300-pound butt into you and kind of knocks your knees out from underneath you. I have higher rates that I charge for my new client appointments. On average, they're about 2 times my hourly rate. If it's a homeopathic intake, it ends up being almost 3 times my hourly rate for that initial intake. So when I decided I was going to quit the emergency clinic, I looked at the amount of money that I was making between the 2 jobs, and it was really nice. But I didn't want to work 60 hours a week anymore. So reasonably, I couldn't expect to be able to make that same amount of income if I only wanted to work 35 hours a week. So I decided, what kind of a pay cut am I comfortable with? How many hours do I want to work? And let's start from there. But then I talked to Wise Friend, and Wise Friend said, you're going about this entirely the wrong way. Is money your biggest priority in your life? And I said, no. She said, get your priorities straight and ask yourself, what is the most important thing in your life? And start there, and then create your business around it. So this was the question I came up with. In trying to decide how I was going to run Good Harbor Vet full time, I asked myself, how many days a week do I want to ride my horse? Then, after I answered that question, I said, how many hours a week do I want to work? And Wise Friend helped me figure out that you can't just say you want to do 35 hours a week seeing clients, because you also have to run your business. How many hours a week do you think it will take you to run your business? So you've got to distinguish between client hours and office hours. And remember that that's got to be under 40 hours a week if I'm going to meet my life balance goal. So then she says, ask yourself how many weeks a year do you want to work? And then she says, do not say more than 50. She was trying to get me to say 48, and I just wasn't ready. And then I asked myself, how much do I want to gross from my salary? Not how much money do I want to bring into the business, but how much money do I want to make? And then finally, what are my additional benefits going to be? Like, can I bring in enough money to also have the business contribute to my monthly retirement fund? So I contribute personally to my retirement fund from my net paycheck, right? But maybe my business can also contribute to my monthly retirement. So these are the answers I came up with. Oh, wait, the previous picture, I'm going back to this slide. It might take a minute to load. This is a trail ride through Turtle Lake Campground that I went on last weekend because I don't work weekends anymore. That cute little spotted headed horse, that is Badger. That guy is my 11-year-old Appaloosa. And you might think to yourself, an Appaloosa, she must Western ride him. No, I actually do dressage with him. And we do trail riding in an endurance saddle, but we're learning some low-level dressage, and I've also done jumping with him. He personally has told me he wants to cut cattle. And this is him and his girlfriend Midnight, who is owned by my really good friend Teresa. They were in the pond at Turtle Lake after our 8-mile trail ride this weekend, because I don't work on weekends. And they are just the best of friends. And normally you would see 2 horses do this and then squeal or scream and splash at each other. Nope, there's no negatives that follow this. They just nuzzle and then go back to drinking the water. It's so sweet. So here's my salvation, my recovery from being a workaholic. How many days a week do I want to ride my horse? I want to ride him 4 days a week. My dressage trainer says that's the minimum for getting good at the stuff she's teaching me. And she's expensive, so I want to practice the stuff she's teaching me. Next, how many hours a week do I want to work? Well, Wise Friend, who answers these questions for me, says 20 to 25 hours a week are client hours. So what I do is I book in 20 hours a week scheduled, and then I have about 5 extra hours a week for same-day medicals. I spend about 10 hours a week doing my office hours, and I track all of this on my Google Calendar so that I'm holding myself accountable. And you will see I do not do weekends. At this point, I'm choosing to work about 50 weeks a year. I take 2 weeks off. I think it ends up being a little bit, I think I end up taking a little bit more than 2 weeks off, but we'll see how this goes. And then my annual gross salary doesn't matter because my cost of living is going to be really different than everybody else's who's watching this webinar. And my expenses are different than everybody else who's watching this webinar. So the actual number doesn't matter, except that it is a 6-figure salary. And I think that it really did not end up being that much of a pay cut from what I was making at the emergency clinic and at my job, working 2 part-time jobs, 60 hours a week, going down to 30 to 35 hours a week, and making really good money, living very comfortably, and feeling really good about myself at the end of the day, that I can be a good healer, that I can also be a person who takes time off and still be able to live comfortably and pay my bills. And then additional business contribution to retirement. Yes, please. So every month, my business pulls out a certain amount of money and transfers it to my retirement account, just like my retirement account pulls money out of my personal account. And every year I check in with my financial planner and with my accountant to see if I can raise that number. So that's my salvation and my success so far. And it's kind of a work in progress. So I'm going to give you just a few more slides about the things that have made this successful for me. This is a picture of me in one of those huge sequoia trees in Yosemite last month when I left my practice for a week to go on vacation. One of the things that's most important for me is I have boundaries, and my clients really respect them because my practice is on the same property as my house. I have never had a client show up uninvited. I've never had someone stop by and just pop in and ask about services. I don't do any phone or email after 8 o'clock during the week. I also do not do any phone or emails on weekends or holidays. I go on vacation for a week, first, second, and fourth quarter. Third quarter, I don't leave because I live in a vacation location, and it's just absolutely beautiful where I am. And when I am on vacation, I do not do anything business related. I don't bring the phone and I don't check email. And when I leave to go on vacation, this is the text message that anyone gets when they message my phone. It says, you have reached Good Harbor Holistic Veterinary Care. Dr. Lisa will be out of town on holiday from Saturday, October 9th through Thursday, October 14th. All texts and emails will be answered on her return. For emergencies, call Bay Area Pet Hospital, and then it has their emergency number there. This is also a similar message that comes up on the weekends. From Friday night at 8 p.m. until Monday morning at 8 a.m. It says almost the same exact message, except it says, you've reached me out of hours. When I do leave town, I send my clients an email about 2 to 3 weeks in advance of the vacation and let them know I'm leaving. And I say, if you have any concerns about me being away and what to do with your pet, if they're in chronic treatment with homeopathy, reach out to me and we'll schedule a phone consult, or we'll meet and we'll have a meeting in person and we'll come up with a plan. I charge clients for all the time that I spend putting that plan together. And then there's this app that you can download that is called Auto Reply Free for your phone, which is what I use to text message my replies to clients out of hours. I also set up an email auto reply on my messages so that when they email me, they know why I'm not answering them back. And I have really great clients, and they like to see me taking good care of myself, and they like to hear that I'm going on vacation, and they like to hear the stories when I come back. And even the clients, I don't have very many that end up in a crisis situation when I'm gone, because I think I set them up for success before I leave. But when I get back, even the clients that struggled a little bit while I was gone are happy to hear about my vacation and hope that I'd gone somewhere nice. So what has been my success in this? I put boundaries at the top again. I've set up a structure that I really like. On Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I see my small animal clients, and it's roughly between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. Some days, if there's a client that needs a later appointment, I'll start later. So I might start at 11 and go until 7. And in between this time, I take a 1-hour break for lunch. I do not do any work things on that lunch hour. I eat, or I walk my dogs, or I play ball with them in the yard. And then on Tuesdays or Thursdays, I do a half day where I will either adjust horses, or I will see clients that can't do a Monday, Wednesday, Friday appointment. I never work more than a half day on these days, because remember I said I wanted to ride my horse 4 days a week. So I ride my horse on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. I don't do any phone or email. I say after 7 o'clock, to be honest. Sometimes I'll push it till 8. I don't do any of it on the weekends. I work between 30 and 35 hours a week. This includes seeing clients and the office work, and I think I make really good money. And one of the things that has helped me the most is I talk to my colleagues who have become my friends regularly. This is a picture of Laura Weiss. She and I, this is on a hike at Saguaro Lake Ranch where the annual meeting is. And Laura and I set up phone consults at least once a month to talk to each other. And we catch up on friend stuff, but most of what we talk about is things with work and things with homeopathy that are going well or not going well. And we give each other advice and try to help. And I think this is so important. And finally, I will leave you with this quote. This is from Buddha. If your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete. So that's all that I have for the webinar tonight. I don't know, Jeff, if we have time for questions, or if you want to just close it. I'll turn it over to you or to Susan.
Whatever you want, Lisa. That was amazing. I mean, thank you, thank you, thank you. Any questions?
My pleasure.
Yeah, thank you again. Any questions from anyone? Just speak up, all the panelists, or Julietta, Judy, Susan. You're unmuted, and I'll unmute everyone else right now. Or you can just type your question. Where's the question box?
Hi, it's Christina.
Hi, Christina.
Hey, Lisa, I know that you've submitted to speak at AHVMA next year. did you submit one about practice management? Happiness in
Nope.
your practice? This talk would be wonderful to have at the, as part of like the intro, and because it would be based on practice management for any kind of a practice, but you'd be speaking about homeopathy throughout it. So then the newbies would be getting interested in homeopathy too, but you wouldn't, the focus would be practice management.
I submitted my hours already, but I think the deadline is November 15th. So I could submit this presentation. When I submitted my hours for AHVMA proposals, I actually hadn't finished this presentation yet.
Right.
But I think you're right. I think it's worth sharing, and I think it could stretch across multiple modalities, not just homeopathy, right?
That's the key. The key would be
Definitely.
not to have it in the homeopathy track. It would be to have it in the practice management, or they always do a personal well-being track. So that would be the track
That's
to have
right.
it in. And if not in 2022, then in San Diego in 23.
Okay. Thanks, Christina. I didn't
Yep.
think about that.
Awesome. Yeah.
You're welcome. I have to leave you all to go to my Council of Elders Zoom call.
Bye.
Bye.
Another
Yes.
example of us working late.
Mhm.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
This is Henrietta. And
Hi, Henrietta.
I just have to say that the presentation was great. And I think that you are extremely fortunate to live in a beautiful area in Michigan, and also fortunate that that area has a lot of people living there that can not only value your expertise because of their background, but can afford it. There are a lot of people there in that area that are either retired there or they have financial security. And that, from what I know of that area of the state. So I think you're very fortunate to have picked that little piece of Michigan.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying in that it might not be possible in some areas where you live to make an hourly rate that would allow you to live the way you want to live and only work 30 to 35 hours a week. But there are a lot of people in my area that aren't financially secure and that can't afford my services. And so I either donate some money, to those causes, or those people don't come to my practice because I'm not willing to be able to be a vet to everybody so that everybody can afford me, because then I feel like I'm working too much. But I do hear what you're saying. Like, this might not work in every environment.
It would be a stretch to have it work in some of the farming communities for large animal homeopathy.
Sure, I believe that.
Anything else from anybody?
I was just, it's Susan Beal. I was just typing a comment in the chat session, but one of the things I think that was a lovely presentation, and I really appreciate the honesty and the vulnerability and all of that sort of stuff, because so often we kind of struggle by ourselves in the void. And I think also that Henrietta's point is really well taken. And having said that, it is hard to provide services in areas that are less financially secure, or sometimes the difference between farming income and other income. Although, some of the farmers that we work for, make very good income farming. But one of the things that I found that's doable or possible to think about is that sometimes one portion of your practice might subsidize another portion of your practice, or you can decide that you're going to give, you know, either X amount of time or X dollars of time of services, or a proportion of your actual cash income or whatever to on a sliding scale or pro bono work or stuff. And I have in the past had, you know, my small animal and horse clients subsidize my farming clients. Now, interestingly, that doesn't always necessarily compare with the actual socioeconomic financial status of all of those things. But as a practitioner, you know, I prefer to do it that way. And so there's ways that you can work around, you know, those incongruities and still be able to talk about the stuff that you've talked about, Lisa. You know, as far as priorities and time and you know, as that old illustration goes, you know, putting the big rocks in the jar first before you try and add the sand and smaller rocks in.
Thanks, Susan.
Hello.
All right. Anything else? Anybody else? Do you want to speak it, Joletta?
Oh. Hold on one sec.
Joletta was just asking how far you are from Grand Rapids.
3 hours north, straight north of Grand Rapids along Lake Michigan.
Got it. All right, Lisa, that was amazing. Sorry.
Thanks. It was fun. Thanks for asking me.
It was, yeah, I mean, I hope you do it again and again and again, because it needs to be out there a lot. So thank you. And what a perfect way to wrap up 2021, everyone. So thank you again, Lisa. And we'll see you guys next year.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night. Take good care of yourselves.
Bye.